After 55 years in broadcasting, Johnny Morris is retiring. This weekend, he will anchor his last newscast here on KOAT7. As Johnny looks forward to his free time, Dan Monahan takes a look back at his storied career.
Just out of his teens, Johnny began broadcasting in Mankato, Minnesota. His first radio news story was local reaction to the death of a president, President Franklin Roosevelt, in early 1945. It has been a while.
People say, why are you retiring? And because I'm old. Should have retired 10 years ago.
He moved from Mankato to Minneapolis and WLOL. He read news and spun records there for 9 years. His switch to KSTP radio in 1955 quickly became a weather job on the Minnesota company's young television station.
Very mild to warm in the southwest today. 71 in Phoenix, 68 degrees in Los Angeles.
No mention of Albuquerque, no thought at the time of ever living here. Over 16 years, Weatherman Morris became a Minnesota mainstay. In 1971, the company sent him to check out its TV station in the Southwest.
Had no expectations of ever moving here until that free trip was kind of a tease.
In a matter of weeks, Johnny left Minnesota's weather behind and began work as a New Mexico newsman at KOB-TV.
Hello, everybody. I'm Johnny Morris. In our headlines tonight, 2 women...
That's where he spent the first half of the 1970s, but KOB fired him, and Johnny Morris, at 50, retired. Or so he thought. In 1979, KOAT called with a novel proposition, the state's first ever co-anchored newscast. On a midsummer night, Johnny Morris and Mary Lynn Roper shared the anchor desk.
After pleading guilty to a charge of voluntary manslaughter.
We'll have that story along with Jim Bowden.
Through the ensuing 2 decades, styles changed and Johnny's co-anchors changed. What didn't change was the Morris magic. Johnny is retiring with the enviable record of never anchoring anything at KOAT but a #1 rated newscast.
I've never been as much a journalist as just a plain anchor. I'd just like to anchor the news. And I'm going to miss that. But, you know, everything ends.
It may seem a stretch, but after 55 years, it is still ending too soon. Dan Monahan, Action 7 News.
Johnny doesn't have an on-air persona. Anchorman Johnny and Everyday Johnny are one and the same. But there are things you probably don't know about him. Tomorrow night at 10, we'll share some of his secrets.
Morris has been on the air somewhere for more than half a century. The majority of that time has been on television here in New Mexico. Now he's retiring, and Dan Monahan thought it might be nice to share the Johnny Morris that you don't get to know from the evening news.
As a teen, Johnny Morris dreamed of a career playing his trumpet in a swing band. He's had his share of twists and turns on the path to retirement from a news job. He was a radio DJ for his first broadcast. He was a weatherman for his first television appearance. But off the air, in his everyday life, he has always been an athlete.
Yeah, the golf is a fun game.
In 1957, he had a hole-in-one, a high point in a life of thrills on the golf course.
Well, I played in a lot of those, you know, those celebrity tournaments. Hey, not bad for an old guy.
He's not too old to rise at the crack of dawn for another athletic endeavor.
30 Love. Our 3 times a week geriatric league tennis where the old guys get out on Wednesdays, Fridays, Saturdays.
They brave even bitter cold to compete.
Boy, I almost left the ground when I jumped.
Don't let his self-deprecating humor fool you. At the 3/4 century mark, Johnny Morris is in great shape. He still skis at every opportunity. It has been a lifelong passion. In fact, back in his Minnesota years, he blended snow and show.
Yeah, I had a syndicated ski show that was on, I think it was on about 50, 60 stations at one time.
More recently, he confirms an element of truth to reported sightings of him tooling about town on rollerblades. He says the only sport he's ever really given up is hunting, but not because of any physical limitations.
My wife is an animal lover, and if I brought home a dead duck, I'd be a dead duck.
By the way, Johnny's also a family man, the father of 6 kids. And one last trivia tidbit about Johnny, his trademark farewell took some work. It was still rough around the edges for his first TV audition.
Good morning and have a nice day. That's the news. Thanks for looking in.
3 decades later, it is a fine-tuned part of the Johnny Morris we know.
I'm Johnny Morris. We'll see you. Thanks for your company.
No, Johnny, thanks for your company. Dan Monahan, Action 7 News.
We know Johnny has always had someone sitting in the chair beside him here on KOAT at our news set, and tomorrow he shares his thoughts about those lady co-anchors. And even more interesting, we share our thoughts about him.